Jake Morrison stood at the window of the transport ship and watched the massive space station grow larger. Nexus Prime was the biggest thing he had ever seen. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went like busy insects around a hive. Some ships looked like metal birds. Others looked like nothing he could name. "First time seeing the Federation hub?" asked the pilot, a blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. "Yes," Jake said. He kept his voice calm, but inside he felt amazed. 3 months ago, he was just another soldier on Earth. Now he was flying to the most important place in the galaxy. The transport docked with a soft bump. Jake picked up his single bag and walked to the exit. The pilot gave him a salute with 2 of his 4 hands. "Good luck, human. You will need it." Jake wondered what that meant. He stepped off the ship into a corridor that buzzed with activity. Aliens of every shape and size walked past him. Some had fur, some had scales, and some looked like walking plants. The air smelled like metal and something sweet he could not name. A woman in a blue uniform approached him. She was human, which made Jake feel better. "Jake Morrison?" she asked. "That's me. I'm Kate Sullivan, the diplomatic liaison. Welcome to Nexus Prime." She shook his hand firmly. "Follow me. We have a lot to discuss." They walked through long hallways, lined with windows that showed the stars. Kate talked as they walked. "The Veltharans specifically asked for you. Do you know why?" Jake shook his head. "My boss just said I had a new job. Bodyguard work for some important aliens." Kate stopped, walking, and looked at him seriously. "These aren't just any aliens, Jake. Princess Lyra and Princess Zara are the daughters of the Veltharan Queen. Their people are one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They're also one of the most dangerous." "Dangerous how?" "They can read minds. They can move things without touching them, and they've been warriors for thousands of years." Kate started walking again. 3 humans have tried to guard them before. All 3 quit within a week." Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. What happened to them? The princesses didn't trust them. The Veltharan guards didn't respect them. And the whole situation was a mess. Kate turned a corner. "But your record is different. You saved Senator Brown from that bomb in Chicago. You protected General Adams for 2 years in the war zone. The Veltharans heard about you and asked for you by name. They stopped at a large door marked with symbols Jake could not read. Kate pressed her hand to a scanner, and the door opened. The room beyond was huge. The ceiling stretched up 3 stories high. Strange plants with silver leaves grew in the corners. In the center of the room, 2 figures sat at a table that looked like it was carved from a single piece of black stone. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The Veltharan princesses were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Their hair was white as snow and fell to their shoulders. They wore simple dark clothes, but somehow they looked royal. The one on the left turned her head to look at Jake. Her eyes were silver, with no pupils that he could see. When she looked at him, he felt like she was seeing right through him. "So, this is the human," she said. Her voice was musical, but cold. "He is smaller than I expected." The other princess laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "They all are, sister. Remember the last one? He shook like a leaf when he met us." Kate stepped forward. "Your Highnesses, may I present Jake Morrison. Jake, this is Princess Lyra Velthara and Princess Zara Velthara." Jake did not bow. He had read the file on the way here. Veltharans respected strength, not submission. Instead, he stood straight and met their strange eyes. Princesses, he said simply. Princess Lyra stood up slowly. She was even taller than Jake had thought. "Tell me, human, why should we trust you with our lives?" "Because I'm good at my job," Jake said, "and because I don't give up." Princess Zara also stood. The two sisters looked exactly alike, except for small differences in how they moved. Lyra moved like a dancer. Zara moved like a soldier. "We have guards already," Zara said. "Veltheran guards who have trained their whole lives to protect us. What can one human do that they cannot?" Jake thought for a moment. He could feel the weight of their stare. Behind them, he saw movement in the shadows. Other Veltherans were watching, probably the guards Zara had mentioned. "I think differently than you do," Jake said finally. "Your enemies know how Veltherans fight. They know how Veltherans think. But they don't know how humans work. That makes me unpredictable." Princess Lyra tilted her head. "Interesting. And what makes you think you can protect us when others have tried to kill us?" "Because," Jake said, "I've spent my whole life learning how to keep people alive in impossible situations, and I've never lost someone I was protecting." The silence stretched out for a long moment. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Then Princess Zara smiled, and it was like ice cracking. "We shall see," she said. "But first, you must prove yourself." A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was another Veltheran, but bigger than the princesses. He wore armor that looked like it was made from black metal. Scars crossed his face, and his silver eyes held no warmth at all. "This is Lord Commander Vextal," Princess Lyra said. "He will test your abilities." The commander looked Jake up and down like he was examining a bug. "Human," he said, his voice like gravel. "You will have one chance to show us what you can do. Fail, and you will leave this place immediately." Jake nodded. "What's the test?" Vextal smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "Simple. Protect the princesses for the next hour while my guards try to reach them. If even one of my warriors touches either princess, you fail." Jake looked around the room. He counted at least 6 Veltheran guards that he could see, and probably more hidden. The room was big with lots of places to hide. The princesses would be in the center, exposed from all sides. "Do I get any weapons?" Jake asked. "You may use whatever you brought with you," Vextal said. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a metal disc. Several of the guards moved their hands to their weapons. "Relax," Jake said. He pressed a button on the disc, and suddenly a dozen small lights appeared around the room. "Motion sensors. Now I'll know where everyone is." He tossed another device toward the ceiling. It stuck there and began to hum softly. "What is that?" Princess Zara asked. "Sound amplifier. I can hear a heartbeat from 50 feet away now. Princess..." Lyra looked interested for the first time. "Clever. But will it be enough?" "We'll find out," Jake said. He moved to stand between the princesses and the largest group of guards. "Your Highnesses, please stay behind me and do exactly what I say." Vextal raised his hand. "Begin." The lights went out. In the darkness, Jake closed his eyes and listened. His sensors told him where the guards were moving. The sound amplifier picked up their breathing. He had fought in the dark before. During the war on Kepler 7, humans might not have psychic powers or super strength, but they were very good at adapting. "Princess Lyra, 2 steps to your left," Jake whispered. "Princess Zara, duck." Something moved through the air where Zara's head had been a second before. Jake spun and fired a small dart from a device on his wrist. He heard a Veltheran grunt in the darkness. "Sleep dart," Jake explained quietly. He'll be fine in an hour. For the next 50 minutes, Jake guided the princesses through the dark room like they were dancing. When guards came from the left, he moved them right. When attackers dropped from above, he had them roll under tables. He used every trick he had learned in 10 years of keeping people alive. When the lights came back on, 5 Veltharan guards were sleeping on the floor. The 6th was hanging upside down from the ceiling, tangled in a net that Jake had set up using his belt and some wire. The princesses stood exactly where they had started, without a scratch on them. Vextal stared at the scene for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a sound like rocks falling. "Impossible," he said. "My guards are the best warriors in the galaxy." "They're good," Jake agreed, helping the hanging guard down from the ceiling. "But they fight like Veltharans. I fight like a human." Princess Lyra and Princess Zara looked at each other. Jake could not read their expressions, but something passed between them. "Welcome to our service, Jake Morrison," Princess Lyra said, formally. "We accept you as our protector." Princess Zara nodded. "Try not to disappoint us, human. Our lives are more dangerous than you know." As Jake looked at the 2 alien princesses, he realized his simple bodyguard job had just become something much more complicated. But he had given his word, and Jake Morrison never broke a promise. The real work was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since Jake began protecting the princesses. He was learning that Veltharan society was more complicated than he had imagined. Everything had rules: how to stand, how to speak, even how to look at someone. Jake felt like he was walking through a field of hidden traps. The princesses lived in a section of the embassy that felt like a palace. The walls were covered with smooth stone that changed colors based on the light. Strange symbols were carved everywhere. Jake had asked what they meant, but Princess Lyra had only said they were family history. Dr. Lisa Chen, the human scientist, studying Veltharan culture, had tried to help Jake understand their ways. She was a small woman with quick eyes who seemed to know everything about alien biology. "The twins have a connection that goes deeper than family," she explained to Jake one morning. "They can feel each other's emotions. Sometimes they even share thoughts." Jake found this hard to believe until he saw it happen. During breakfast, Princess Zara would reach for something before Princess Lyra even asked for it. When one sister felt happy, the other would smile for no reason. It was like watching 2 people who shared one mind. The hardest part of Jake's job was learning to work with the Veltharan guards. They followed him because their princesses ordered it, but they did not trust him. Vextal was the worst. He watched Jake like a hawk, waiting for him to make a mistake. "Human thinking is chaotic," Vextal told him one day during training. "You have no discipline, no honor." "Maybe," Jake said, dodging a practice sword that came too close to his head. "But chaotic thinking keeps people alive." The conversation ended when alarms began ringing throughout the embassy. Jake ran toward the princess's quarters, his heart pounding. He found them in the main hall, surrounded by their guards. Princess Lyra looked calm, but Jake was learning to read the small signs that showed Veltharan emotions. Her jaw was tight, and her silver eyes were darker than usual. "What's happening?" Jake asked Vextal. "Bomb threat," the commander replied. "Someone called in saying there was an explosive device in the diplomatic dining hall." "Where are the princesses? Supposed to eat lunch today?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "The diplomatic dining hall," Princess Zara said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see her hands were clenched into fists. Ambassador Kate Sullivan came running down the hallway, her face red from hurrying. "The bomb squad is searching the dining hall now," she said, breathing hard. "But we can't find anything. They think it might be a false alarm." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. In his experience, false alarms were often covers for real attacks. "Who else knew about the lunch meeting?" he asked. "The usual group," Kate said. "The Earth delegation, the Veltharan diplomatic, team and representatives from 3 other worlds. Maybe 20 people total." "And how many people work in the dining hall?" Kate thought for a moment. "Kitchen staff, servers, security. Maybe another 15. Jake did quick math in his head. 35 people who knew where the princesses would be at exactly what time. Too many variables, too many chances for something to go wrong. "We're not going to that lunch," he announced. Princess Lyra turned to look at him with those silver eyes that seemed to see everything. "The meeting is important, Jake Morrison. We cannot simply avoid our duties because of threats. With respect, Your Highness, my job is to keep you alive. Dead princesses can't attend meetings." For a moment, Jake thought she might argue with him. Then Princess Zara placed a hand on her sister's arm. "He is right, Lyra. Better to be cautious." "Fine," Princess Lyra said. "But we cannot hide forever. The negotiations with the Earth delegation must continue." Jake nodded. "Then we'll bring the meeting to you, here, where I can control the environment." 2 hours later, the dining hall exploded. The blast shook the entire embassy. Jake felt the floor shake under his feet and saw dust fall from the ceiling. Emergency lights began flashing, and alarms wailed throughout the building. The bomb had been hidden inside the wall where no scanner would have found it. If the princesses had been at their scheduled lunch, they would have died instantly. "How? Did you know?" Princess Zara asked Jake. She looked shaken for the first time since he had met her. "I didn't know for sure," Jake admitted. But something felt wrong. The threat was too obvious. Real assassins don't usually call ahead to warn people. "Princess," Lyra was very quiet. She stood at the window, looking out at the stars. When she finally spoke, her voice was different than usual. Softer. "You saved our lives today." "It's my job," Jake said. "No," she said, turning to face him. "Many people have jobs. Few people are willing to risk being wrong to keep others safe. You made a choice that could have made you look foolish if you had been mistaken." Jake felt something change in the room. The other Veltharan guards were looking at him differently. Even Vextal seemed less hostile. "The human has good instincts," the commander admitted grudgingly. "Perhaps there is something to be said for chaotic thinking." Over the next few days, Jake noticed the princesses treating him less like hired help and more like... He wasn't sure. What? They asked his opinion on things that had nothing to do with security. They included him in conversations about politics and culture. Princess Zara even asked him to teach her some human combat techniques. "Your people fight very differently." "Than we do," she said during a practice session. "We rely on strength and psychic abilities. You use tricks and misdirection." "Whatever works," Jake said, showing her how to use an attacker's momentum against them. In a real fight, there are no rules except staying alive. Princess Zara was a quick learner. Within a week, she was using human tactics alongside her natural abilities. Jake found himself enjoying their training sessions. She asked good questions and never gave up, even when a technique was difficult. Princess Lyra was harder to understand. She was always polite, always proper. But Jake could sense something underneath. Dr. Chen had mentioned that as the older twin, Lyra would someday be queen. The pressure of that responsibility seemed to weigh on her constantly. Late one evening, Jake was checking the security systems when he found Princess Lyra standing alone on one of the embassy's observation decks. She was looking out at the stars through a massive window. "Is everything all right, Your Highness?" Jake asked. She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, she didn't look at him. "Do you ever feel trapped by what people expect of you?" Jake thought about it. "Sometimes, but I've learned that people's expectations don't have to become my limitations. It is different when you are born to rule," she said. "Every choice I make affects millions of lives. Every mistake could start a war. Every friendship could be seen as a political alliance." Jake began to understand why the princesses had seemed so cold when he first met them. How could you trust anyone when every relationship might have hidden motives? "For what it's worth," Jake said, "I'm not here because of politics. I'm here because it's the right thing to do." Princess Lyra finally turned to look at him. "Why did you become a protector, Jake Morrison? Surely there are easier ways to make a living." Jake had been asked this question before, but never by someone who seemed to genuinely want to understand the answer. "When I was 12, my little sister was almost kidnapped," he said. "A stranger tried to grab her outside our school. I wasn't big or strong, but I made enough noise that the man ran away. That night I realized that sometimes the only thing standing between innocent people and harm is someone willing to make a stand." Princess Lyra nodded slowly. "And you have been making that stand ever since?" "I guess so." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships move between the stars. Finally, Princess Lyra spoke again. "My sister likes you." Jake felt his cheeks grow warm. "She's a good student. And a good person." "She is. But she is also a princess, and you are human. That complicates things." "I know. Do you?" Princess Lyra asked. "Our people live for 500 years. We form deep bonds that last for centuries. When a Veltheran chooses a mate, it is not just for companionship. It is a joining of minds and souls." Jake felt something heavy settle in his chest. "Are you telling me to stay away from her?" Princess Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "I am telling you to be careful, with her heart and with your own." The next morning brought news that changed everything. Intelligence reports suggested that the assassination attempts were not random acts of terrorism. They were part of a larger conspiracy that involved people in both the Earth government and the Veltheran ruling council. Someone close to the princesses was feeding information to their enemies. Someone they trusted was trying to get them killed. As Jake looked at the faces around the morning briefing table, he realized that his job had just become much more dangerous. It was no longer enough to protect the princesses from outside threats. Now he had to figure out which of their friends was really their enemy, and he had to do it before the next attack succeeded. The attack came without warning. Jake was reviewing security reports in his quarters when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red light. Then he heard something that made his blood freeze. "Princess." Zara screaming. He ran through the corridors faster than he had ever moved in his life. The princess's quarters were 3 levels up and halfway across the embassy. As he ran, Jake could hear the sound of energy weapons firing and something heavy crashing to the ground. When he reached their rooms, he found chaos. Furniture was overturned. Scorch marks covered the walls. 2 Veltheran guards lay unconscious on the floor. In the center of the room, Princess Lyra knelt beside her sister, who was bleeding from a wound on her head. "What happened?" Jake asked, dropping to his knees beside them. "Shadow assassins," Princess Lyra said. Her voice was shaking. They came through the walls somehow. Zara threw herself in front of me when they fired. Jake examined Princess Zara's wound. It looked bad, but not deadly. Head wounds always bled a lot. Still, she was unconscious, and that worried him. "We need to get her to the medical bay," he said. "No." Princess Lyra's voice was firm. "We cannot trust anyone right now. The assassins knew exactly where to find us. They had inside information." Jake felt the same cold certainty settling in his stomach. She was right. The attack had been too precise, too well planned. Someone had told the assassins exactly when and where to strike. "Then what do you suggest?" he asked. Princess Lyra looked at him with those silver eyes, and Jake saw something in them he had never seen before. Fear. Yes, but also determination. "There is a place," she said quietly. "A safe room that only Zara and I know about. But to reach it, I will need your help." Jake nodded. "Whatever you need." Princess Lyra placed her hands on either side of her sister's head. She closed her eyes and began to whisper something in the Veltharan language. Jake watched in amazement as Princess Zara's wound began to close. The bleeding stopped, and some color returned to her face. "I cannot heal her completely," Princess Lyra explained. "But this will keep her stable until we reach safety." Jake carefully lifted Princess Zara in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but still tall enough that her feet hung down past his waist. Princess Lyra led them through a series of hidden passages that Jake never knew existed. The walls here were different, older, carved with symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. These passages were built by the first Veltharan ambassadors to reach this station, Princess Lyra explained, as they walked. "Only members of the royal family know they exist." They reached a door that looked like solid stone. Princess Lyra pressed her hand against a section of the wall, and the door slid open silently. Beyond was a room that took Jake's breath away. It was like stepping into another world. The walls were covered with crystals that gave off soft blue light. Plants grew everywhere, but they were unlike anything Jake had seen before. Some had leaves that moved like they were breathing. Others had flowers that chimed softly when the air touched them. "This is beautiful," Jake said, gently placing Princess Zara on a bed made from what looked like woven moonlight. "It is a memory room," Princess Lyra said, "a place where my people can connect with our ancestors and find peace." As if summoned by her words, an elderly Veltharan woman appeared from behind a curtain of hanging vines. She was small and bent, with age, but her silver eyes were sharp and alert. "High Priestess Naravel," Princess Lyra said, bowing deeply. "We need sanctuary." The old woman looked at Jake with curiosity. "You bring a human to the sacred place?" "I bring someone I trust with my life," Princess Lyra replied. High Priestess Naravel studied Jake for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "If Princess Lyra trusts you, then you are welcome here. Let me see to your sister." While the High Priestess worked over Princess Zara, Princess Lyra pulled Jake aside. "There is something I must tell you," she said quietly. "Something that only my family knows." Jake waited. "Zara and I share more than just thoughts and feelings," she continued. "We share a life force. If one of us dies, the other will follow, within days. That is why the assassins target both of us. They know that killing one means killing both." Jake felt like the ground had shifted under his feet. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because if something happens to me, you need to know how to save her." Princess Lyra's voice was very calm, but Jake could see the fear in her eyes. And because I want you to understand what it means that she cares for you. Before Jake could respond, Princess Zara stirred on the bed. Her silver eyes opened, and she looked around in confusion until she saw Jake. "You came for us," she said softly. "Of course I did." Princess Zara tried to sit up, but the High Priestess gently pushed her back down. "Rest, child. You were badly hurt." "The assassins," Princess Zara said, her voice stronger now. "Did you see them, Lyra? They moved like shadows. I have never seen anything like it." Princess Lyra shook her head. "I was focused on protecting you, but Jake is right. Someone told them where to find us." Jake had been thinking about this since the attack. "We need to assume that everyone we normally trust is compromised. That means we can't go back to your quarters, we can't rely on the embassy guards, and we can't trust the information coming through normal channels." "So what do we do?" Princess Zara asked. "We work together," Jake said. "Just the three of us. We figure out who's trying to kill you, and we stop them." High Priestess Naravel looked up from the healing crystals she was arranging around Princess Zara. "The human speaks wisdom. But be warned, the path you choose will change all of you. When three souls work as one, they become something new." Jake wasn't sure what she meant, but Princess Lyra seemed to understand. She looked at Jake with an expression he couldn't read. "Are you willing?" she asked. "To truly become part of our circle? It would mean sharing our burden, our danger, and our destiny." Jake thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. The transport ship, the test with Vex Tal, the bombing, the quiet conversations under the stars. He thought about Princess Zara's smile when she learned a new fighting technique. He thought about Princess Lyra's loneliness and her strength. "Yes," he said simply. High Priestess Naravel began to chant in the old language. She took Jake's hands and placed them over a crystal that pulsed with warm light. Then she did the same with both princesses. Jake felt something change inside him. It was like a door opening in his mind. Suddenly, he could sense the emotions of both sisters. Princess Lyra's fierce protectiveness, Princess Zara's quiet courage, and underneath it all, their deep love for each other and their people. "It is done," the High Priestess said. "You are bonded now. You will always be able to find each other, no matter how far apart you may be." Over the next few days, they planned their next move. The sacred room became their base of operations. Jake used his contacts to gather information about who might be behind the attacks. Princess Lyra reached out to trusted allies in the Veltharan government. Princess Zara analyzed the tactical patterns of their enemies. What they discovered was worse than any of them had imagined. The conspiracy reached into the highest levels of both governments. Earth Senator Alex Parker was taking money to sabotage the peace talks. A group of Veltharan nobles wanted to prevent any alliance with humans. Even some people in the embassy were involved. "They're planning something big," Jake said, studying the intelligence reports they had gathered. "All these small attacks have been leading up to a major assault." "When?" Princess Zara asked. "During the formal treaty signing ceremony next week, when both governments will have their most important people in one place." Princess Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "If they succeed, it will not just mean our deaths. It will mean war between our peoples." Jake nodded grimly. "Which is probably what they want." That night, as Princess Zara slept in the healing crystal's light, Princess Lyra and Jake sat talking in low voices. "I need to tell you something," Princess Lyra said. About Zara's feelings for you. Jake felt his heart skip. Princess Lyra, Let me finish, she said gently. In our culture, when someone chooses a life partner, both twins must agree. It is not just Zara's choice to make. Jake waited, afraid to breathe. I have watched you these past weeks. I have seen how you protect us without seeking reward. How you treat us as people, not just as symbols. How you make Zara laugh when she thinks no one is watching. Princess Lyra smiled, and it transformed her face. If my sister chooses you, I will support that choice. Jake felt something tight in his chest loosen. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, Princess Lyra said, her expression becoming serious again. First, we must survive what is coming, and I fear that will require sacrifices from all of us. As Jake looked at the two sleeping princesses, he realized that his simple bodyguard job had become something much more complicated. He wasn't just protecting them anymore. He was part of their family, and that meant he would do whatever it took to keep them safe, even if it cost him everything. The real battle was about to begin. The message came through Jake's old military communicator at 3 in the morning. It was a code he hadn't seen in years. The emergency signal from his former commanding officer, General Pete Harrison. Morrison, I need to see you immediately. Docking Bay 7. Come alone. Jake stared at the message, his mind racing. Harrison was one of the few people from his past who knew where he was. But why contact him now? And why the secrecy? Princess Zara stirred on her bed of healing crystals. The psychic bond they now shared meant she could sense his emotional state even while sleeping. What's wrong? She asked softly. Someone from my past wants to meet, Jake said. I think it might be important. Princess Lyra was already awake. Jake was learning that the older twin slept very lightly. It could be a trap. Maybe. But if it's not, we might get information we need. Jake checked his weapons. I'll be careful. Take this, Princess Zara said, handing him a small crystal pendant. If you're in real danger, break it. We'll know immediately and come for you. Jake put the pendant around his neck. The crystal felt warm against his skin. I'll be back soon. Docking Bay 7 was in the oldest part of Nexus Prime, where the lighting was dim and security cameras had blind spots. Jake approached carefully, using skills he'd learned in the war. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every sound could be the last thing he heard. General Harrison was waiting by an old cargo ship, exactly as Jake remembered him. Tall, gray-haired, with eyes that missed nothing. But something was different. The general looked nervous. Jake, Harrison said, extending his hand. You look good. This assignment agrees with you. General, Jake replied, shaking the offered hand. What's so urgent that you had to meet in secret? Harrison looked around nervously. We need to talk about the princesses you're protecting. There are things you don't know, such as the assassination attempts. They're not what they seem. Harrison moved closer, lowering his voice. Jake, you've been set up. This whole assignment was a trap from the beginning. Jake felt ice form in his stomach. What do you mean? Think about it. Why would aliens specifically request a human bodyguard? Why you, out of thousands of qualified candidates? Harrison pulled out a data pad. Because someone wanted you close to them when they die. Jake looked at the information on the pad. It showed financial transfers, coded messages, and meeting records. His name appeared in several documents, always connected to the princess's security arrangements. Someone has been planning this for months, Harrison continued. You were chosen to be the fall guy. When the princesses are finally killed, you'll be blamed for failing to protect them. The perfect scapegoat to start a war between humans and Veltherans. Jake's mind reeled. Could it be true? Had he been manipulated from the very beginning? Who's behind it? He asked. Harrison hesitated. That's the part you're not going to like. The conspiracy goes deeper than we thought. It includes people in both governments. People you trust. Names, Jake said firmly. Ambassador Kate Sullivan is taking money from Veltheran separatists. Senator Alex Parker is coordinating with Earth military factions who want war. Even some of the embassy security staff are involved. Jake felt the world spinning around him. Kate had been his contact since day one. She had introduced him to the princesses, arranged his quarters, provided his security briefings. If she was working against them, there's more, Harrison said grimly. The next attack is planned for tomorrow night, during the formal dinner. With Queen Mother Silthara, the princess's mother is arriving for the peace treaty signing. How do you know all this? Because I've been investigating it for weeks. There's a group of us, humans and Veltherans, who want the peace talks to succeed. We've been trying to identify the conspirators. Jake felt the crystal pendant grow warm against his chest. Somewhere in the embassy, Princess Zara was sensing his emotional turmoil. What do you need me to do? Jake asked. Keep the princesses safe tomorrow night. We'll handle the rest. Harrison handed him another data pad. This contains everything we know about the attack plan. Study it carefully. Jake took the pad, but something felt wrong. Harrison was being too helpful, too forthcoming with information. In Jake's experience, intelligence briefings were never this complete. General, Jake said slowly, how did you know to contact me tonight? Harrison's expression changed slightly. What do you mean? I mean, if this conspiracy is as big as you say, how do you know I'm not part of it? How do you know you can trust me? Because I know you, Jake. You've never betrayed anyone in your life. Jake nodded, but his hand moved to the small weapon on his belt. That's true. But there's something else that's true about me. What's that? I never leave a job half-finished. Jake's weapon was in his hand before Harrison could react. So, why are you trying to get me to abandon the princesses now? Harrison's friendly mask dropped away. His hand moved toward his own weapon, but Jake was faster. Who are you really working for? Jake demanded. Harrison smiled coldly. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, but not smart enough. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. Take him. Armed figures emerged from behind cargo containers around the bay. Jake counted at least 6, all wearing the black armor of shadow assassins, the same ones who had attacked the princesses. Jake broke the crystal pendant with his free hand. The fight was brief and vicious. Jake had surprise on his side initially, but he was outnumbered 6-1. He managed to take down 2 assassins before the others overwhelmed him. As darkness closed in, he heard Harrison speaking into his communicator. The bodyguard has been neutralized. Proceed with the operation. Jake woke up in a cell that smelled like rust and fear. His head pounded, and his wrists were bound with energy shackles. Through the small window in his cell door, he could see other prisoners. Some were human. Some were Veltheran. All looked like they had been there for a long time. A figure approached his cell. It was Agent Nick Carter, someone Jake recognized from the embassy security staff. Morrison, Carter said quietly. Thank God you're alive. Carter? What are you doing here? Same thing you are, probably. Got too close to the truth. Carter looked around nervously. Listen, we don't have much time. Your princess friends are looking for you, but they're walking into a trap. What kind of trap? The dinner tonight. Queen Mother Silthara arrived this morning, and the conspirators are planning to poison all three of them during the meal. They'll blame it on human assassins using Earth-made toxins. Jake felt panic rise in his chest. Through the psychic bond, he could sense Princess Zara's worry and Princess Lyra's growing determination. They were going to try to rescue him, which would put them exactly where their enemies wanted them. We have to warn them, Jake said. How? We're locked up in the deepest part of the station. No one even knows this place exists. Jake looked around, his cell, his mind working frantically. Then he remembered something High Priestess Naravel had said about the crystal pendant. It wasn't just a communication device. It was a beacon that would allow the princesses to find him no matter where he was. They'll come for me, Jake said with certainty. The question is, will we be ready to help them when they do? Carter looked confused, but Jake was already working on a plan. If the princesses were going to walk into danger to save him, he would make sure they found allies waiting instead of enemies. Meanwhile, in the sacred room deep in the embassy, Princess Lyra and Princess Zara felt Jake's pain through their bond. They knew he was alive but in trouble. They also knew that Queen Mother Silthara expected them at the formal dinner in 2 hours. We have to go to him, Princess Zara said, her silver eyes blazing with determination. I know, Princess Lyra replied. But if we leave now, we abandon our mother to the assassins. Then we save them both, Princess Zara said simply. Jake would never ask us to choose between him and family, so we don't choose. We save everyone. High Priestess Naravel looked up from her meditation crystals. The path you speak of is dangerous, children. You would be risking everything. Princess Lyra stood, her royal bearing evident despite her casual clothes. We have already risked everything by trusting our hearts. Now we finish what we started. As the sisters prepared for what might be their final battle, Jake worked desperately to free himself and the other prisoners. He had no idea if his plan would work, but he knew one thing for certain. When the princesses came for him, he would be ready to fight by their side. The real test of their bond was about to begin. The rescue came just as Jake had expected it would. Princess Zara appeared first, moving through the hidden prison like a silver ghost. Her psychic abilities allowed her to disable the electronic locks without triggering alarms. Princess Lyra followed close behind, her royal training evident in how she coordinated the operation. Are you hurt? Princess Zara asked, her hands gentle as she examined Jake's injuries. I'll live, Jake said, though his head was still pounding. But we have a bigger problem. Your mother is walking into a trap. We know, Princess Lyra said grimly. High Priestess Naravel received a vision. The dinner tonight is meant to be our deaths. Jake and Agent Carter quickly freed the other prisoners. Most were embassy staff who had gotten too close to discovering the conspiracy. Together, they formed a small but determined group. How do we stop this? Carter asked. Jake looked at the princesses. Through their bond, he could feel their resolve. They had already made their decision. We go to the dinner, Princess Lyra said, but we go prepared. The formal dining hall was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across tables set with the finest dishes from a dozen worlds. Queen Mother Silthara sat at the head table, every inch the royal matriarch. She was taller than her daughters, with silver hair that seemed to glow with its own light. Ambassador Kate Sullivan moved through the crowd, playing the perfect hostess. Senator Alex Parker stood near the Earth delegation, smiling and shaking hands. To anyone watching, it looked like a celebration of peace between two great civilizations. But Jake could see the signs that others missed. The security guards positioned at strange angles. The servers who kept checking small devices on their wrists. The way certain guests avoided the food while encouraging others to eat more. "The poison is in the wine," Princess Zara whispered. She had used her psychic abilities to read the thoughts of one of the conspirators. "A slow-acting toxin that will look like natural causes." "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "The toast is scheduled for 9 o'clock. 20 minutes. Jake, Princess." Lyra and Princess Zara moved through the crowd carefully. They had to stop the assassination without causing panic or revealing how much they knew. If the conspirators realized their plan was discovered, they might try something more desperate. Queen Mother Silthara noticed her daughters approaching and smiled. It was the first time Jake had seen her look truly happy since arriving. "My daughters," she said in the musical Veltheron language, "you look radiant tonight." "Mother," Princess Lyra replied formally, "we need to speak with you privately." "Of course, but perhaps after the toast? Ambassador Sullivan has prepared something special." Jake saw Kate Sullivan approaching with a tray of wine glasses. The crystal goblets sparkled in the light, but Jake could smell something wrong with the wine. It was subtle, but his training had taught him to notice such things. "Your Majesty," Jake said, stepping forward. "I'm afraid there's been a security concern." Queen Mother Silthara looked at him with surprise. "And you are?" "Jake Morrison, Your Majesty, your daughter's protector." Kate Sullivan had stopped moving, her eyes darting between Jake and the exits. Senator Parker was speaking urgently into a hidden communicator. "What kind of security concern?" the Queen Mother asked. "The kind that requires immediate evacuation," Jake said firmly. "Your Majesty, your life is in danger." Before anyone could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Screams echoed through the hall as shadow assassins materialized from hidden positions. But this time, Jake and the princesses were ready. Princess Zara moved like lightning, her combat training combining with her psychic abilities to devastating effect. She disarmed 3 assassins before they could draw their weapons. Princess Lyra created a protective barrier around her mother using pure mental energy. Energy blasts that would have been lethal struck the barrier and dissipated harmlessly. Jake fought with every trick he had learned in 20 years of combat. He used the confusion to his advantage, turning the assassin's own tactics against them. When one tried to blend into the shadows, Jake tracked him by sound. When another used advanced technology, Jake used simple physics to bring him down. The battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. When the emergency lighting stabilized, a dozen assassins lay unconscious on the floor. Ambassador Kate Sullivan and Senator Alex Parker were among those captured. "It's over," Jake said, breathing hard. But Princess Lyra was looking at something that made her face pale. "No, look!" General Harrison stood at the far end of the hall, holding a device that looked like a small sun. Jake recognized it immediately, a quantum explosive, big enough to destroy the entire embassy. "You were supposed to be dead by now," Harrison called out. "All of you. This was meant to look like a tragic accident during the peace negotiations." "Why?" Queen Mother Silthara asked. Her voice carried the authority of centuries of rule. "Why would you want war between our peoples?" Harrison laughed bitterly. Because some of us remember when humans stood alone, before we went crawling to aliens, begging for acceptance. We were strong once, we can be strong again. Strength built on hatred is not strength at all, Princess Lyra said. It is fear disguised as power. Pretty words from an alien princess. But it doesn't matter now. If I can't have the war I wanted, I'll settle for the revenge. Harrison's finger moved toward the activation switch. Jake didn't think. He ran. The explosive device flew from Harrison's hands as Jake tackled him. They hit the ground hard, rolling across the polished floor. Jake could hear Princess Zara screaming his name, but he was focused on one thing, getting the bomb away from everyone he cared about. He grabbed the device and threw it toward the massive windows that looked out into space. Princess Lyra understood immediately. Her psychic abilities shattered the reinforced glass, creating a hole that led to the vacuum of space. The bomb was sucked out into the void, where it exploded harmlessly among the stars. But the sudden decompression created its own danger. Jake felt himself being pulled toward the broken window. His feet left the ground as the station's emergency systems fought to seal the breach. Strong hands grabbed his arms. Princess Zara and Princess Lyra, working together, pulled him back to safety just as the emergency barriers slammed into place. "Don't ever do anything that stupid again," Princess Zara said, her voice shaking. "I'll try not to," Jake replied, though they all knew he would do exactly the same thing if he had to. 6 months later, Jake stood in a place he had never expected to see. The throne room of the Veltharan homeworld was carved from a single massive crystal that seemed to contain entire galaxies within its structure. Sunlight streaming through the crystal walls created patterns that moved like living art. Queen Mother Silthara had officially adopted Jake into the royal family, giving him the title of Battle Brother. It was an honor that had not been granted to an outsider in over 1,000 years. "You understand what this means?" Princess Lyra asked him. She wore the formal robes of the heir apparent, but her eyes held the warmth Jake had come to treasure. "I think so. I'm family now, in every way that matters." "More than family," Princess Zara said, taking his hand. "You're pack. You're part of our soul." The psychic bond between the three of them had grown stronger over the months. Jake could feel their emotions as clearly as his own. He could sense Princess Lyra's quiet joy at seeing her sister happy. He could feel Princess Zara's deep contentment at having found someone who understood her completely. Dr. Lisa Chen had been fascinated by the development. "I've never seen anything like it," she told Jake during one of her examinations. "The bond is changing your brain structure. You're developing psychic abilities of your own." It was true. Jake could now sense danger before it appeared. He could feel the emotional states of people around him. Sometimes, when he concentrated, he could even move small objects with his mind. "It's not the abilities that matter," High Priestess Naravel had told him. "It's the connection. You three have become something new. A bridge between worlds." The formal ceremony was beautiful. Representatives from dozens of worlds attended, including the new Earth President, Maria Rodriguez. The corrupt politicians had been removed from office, and the peace treaty had been signed with genuine goodwill on both sides. Jake knelt before Queen Mother Silthara as she spoke the ancient words that would make him officially part of the royal family. When she placed the crystal crown of a battle brother on his head, he felt the weight of centuries of tradition. "Rise, Jake Morrison of Earth," the Queen Mother said. "Rise, battle brother of House Velthara." May you protect this family as they have protected you. Jake stood and looked out at the assembled crowd. He saw aliens and humans standing together, no longer as strangers, but as allies. He saw Ambassador Carter, who had been promoted to head of embassy security. He saw Dr. Chen, who was now studying the psychological effects of interspecies bonding. Most importantly, he saw Princess Lyra and Princess Zara, his sisters and his family, and his purpose. "What happens now?" Princess Zara asked later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. "Now we build something better," Jake said. "We show both our peoples that different doesn't mean enemy. That cooperation is stronger than conquest." Princess Lyra joined them, her royal duties finished for the day. "The council,"